Hello everybody. Currently 2 people watching. Let me know if this quality is really bad. Struggling with some internet issues. If everything is all good, then if one of you can just say in the chat that it's all good, would be handy. Okay, it looks like we're currently hitting around 28 frames to 30 frames per second. Should be good. YouTube is kind of telling me that my live stream health is poor at the moment, which is kind of worrying. I'm gonna assume that we're all good to go. I'm gonna ignore YouTube's warning and yeah, and hopefully we're good. So yeah, in today's stream I plan on starting a online store. Basically, me and my friend Bobby, we kind of had this idea a while ago to start selling themes and landing pages, all of that cool stuff. And I don't know if any of you guys have followed any of our stuff, but for a while AO.design was going to be a design feedback tool, and now it's going to be a design resource tool. So that's a little bit of background around AO design. I'm going to start the stream right from the beginning, so I'm not even going to install next.js and all of that stuff. You probably will experience some frame rate drops when I start installing npm packages because it uses up my internet, and yeah, I just can't seem to find a good way around that unless I have like a sort of a global npm that I sort of install loads of things on. But anyway, what do I have so far? I have this design folder, which stands for AO design, and I have a front and back folder within that. And as always, I'm gonna start with the front end of the website, which is this design here. So we see that we have this email subscribe form, which I guess gonna work with Mailchimp to do. And then we have these sort of like showcased theme sections, which kind of has some highlights and a button to live demo the theme and a button to buy the theme. Now, this first version isn't going to be set up with like accounts, so how are we going to allow people to download the same theme like multiple times if they've already paid for it, for example? And the only way I can think of, unless I introduce an account system, is like maybe we click this buy button and then we have an email field show, and they can put in their email, and then once the purchase has all gone through, we'll email them the download link, which maybe expires after like 10 minutes or something. And then basically if they put in an email address that already exists and they've already purchased, then it would just resend and sort of regenerate a download link. And that's kind of the best way I can think of doing it. And then I guess it's quite cool because later on we can show how to extend this onto an account system, and then you can kind of see your previous purchases and just like download it through the list, all of that cool stuff. So as I mentioned at the start briefly, I'm going to be using next.js. Like, I use it for a lot of things, I know, and it's a great tool for just starting out like a quick front end system without having to worry about a lot of things, which it does for you. like file system routing. It kind of does all of that for you. So for example, like you can just have a pages folder, and then you can have like index.js or home.js or about.js, and it'll just automatically work out the routing system based on that. You can also set up an external server really easily, like a custom one, and then you can have your own custom routing for, like, if you wanted to do like / landing page / the ID of the theme or landing page, then you could do that through custom server routing as well. It has automatic code splitting, so it splits everything up nicely and keeps everything nice and zipped up. It has server-side rendering built in, and it has static exporting, so we can have all of our files, images, and all of that great stuff just served on a static directory, and we don't have to set up anything to get that far. It also offers like tons more cool things. Just like reading through this stuff is pretty cool. We can set up server-side caching, which I think we might do in this live stream. And then started components. I use started components a lot for like basically anything I'm working on, unless it's like a React Native app. I don't know why, because I'm like 99% sure you can, and maybe I probably should, but just haven't tried it out. You can set up an Electron app if you want to. Works with Redux, so all of these great things, just like completely out of the box, allows me to set up a front-end React system in like no time at all, which is in this day and age just like so cost effective. So let's get started. I got a couple of links open. One is for working with styled components and next.js, and one is working with server-side rendering caching. So basically we don't have to load the pages each time. It can be stored in memory, and then the pages load really fast. Just thinking, I guess the best thing to do is just to install Next and then work through this stuff. You can like install these examples like so with these sort of commands, but I'm also just going to sort of read the package.json, see what dependencies they require, and then just sort of go through and sort of like copy basically one for one what these guys have done, so I can read it, and see if I can do it any better than they have done. So yeah, let's just install the main next.js stuff, which looks like just this line here. Now I'm going to just do yarn for this stuff, so I'm going to cd into front. Okay, so this is when the frame rate on my video may drop, because yeah, as I said, I'm going to be installing npm packages, but hopefully within the next like 10 minutes we'll install the packages we need and it won't be that bad. So let's just get this out of the way. Okay, so that's installed, and for a second there it did drop down to 8 frames per second, but I can see it's back up to 30 frames per second, so yeah. Elliot Jordan, hey, if that is the Elliot Jordan that I went to school with, then that's pretty cool. Haven't spoken to you in so long, hope you're doing well. We back, baby. New store, hell yes. So basically I'm gonna be doing live streams I'm gonna try every day. Today was my first day back at like full-time working again. So I did a whole day's work, and I'm gonna see what it's like to live stream in the evenings on these projects, and hopefully every day I can kind of get some live streams out. I'm gonna be splitting my week up into the Q&A project, which I've already done 3 live streams on, and this project, which is gonna be a store. 2 totally different projects. One, the Q&A is gonna have a lot more back end The store is going to rely a lot on Stripe, but I thought, why not have two projects on the go, because I'm not busy enough, clearly. Okay, so next.js is installed. So the next thing you need to do is in your package.json, you should have a scripts file like this. So let's just see. Okay, so it automatically added the package.json. So let's just open this up in whichever editor you want. And we'll maximize this, hoping that the font size is gonna already be nice and big for you guys, but okay, it's not. All right, so let's push this up a bit. Right, is this a good size for you guys? Let me know if you need me to increase it. I think this is the one that we've kind of been working on previously. So let's then do what it says here and add these scripts in here. As simple as that. Okay, so basically this sort of next start, next build, and then next, it just runs like the next.js package, and then it looks for anything inside the pages folder. So we'll create pages, and then say if I wanted to have something on the root of my website, then we'd need to have an index.js or a folder called index and an index.js in there, which I know kind of sounds a bit weird, but like it works better if I explain it like, say you have a sort of like a products page, and then you have an index in there. And it would just mean that basically when the root tries to go to products, it would just use this index.js file, because index, as you guys probably well know, is kind of like the first red file in when it loads. So this is kind of just a nice way to add things into like a folder structure. Say if you wanted to add specific styles for this page, then it'd be nicer to have it in a folder like this. Normally I like to have a component for most things, which will then have its own styles to kind of like just keep things a little bit neater. So I normally just make pages like this and just have the JS file directly in here. It kind of like forces me almost to kind of have component-based designs, all of that stuff. Okay, so what should we do first? We should probably install a ES linter, because otherwise things could get crazy. So let's do yarn add ES lint, and again, sorry for the frame rate drop, but here we go. Okie dokie, that seems to have installed, and we're back up to full frame rate. So now that that's done, we need to then set up ESLint, and how you can do that is you can just go into your node modules folder like this, and then you go into the ESLint folder, bin eslint.js, and then do -- init, press enter, and it would run through some options for you. So we're going to use a popular style guide, and I like to use Airbnb style guide. This stuff is totally up to you, and yes, we're going to be using React obviously, and yeah, JavaScript. Would you like to install them with npm now? Yes. It would be nice if this package would like be able to tell if you had a yarn.lock file or an npm.lock file, and then automatically install with yarn or npm depending on which one you have on your project. That would be nice. That's what I would do. But maybe they'll add it in later on. That'd be cool. Taking a while. Okay, so that's done. Should be hitting the frame rates up again now. Forgot to warn you guys about the frame rate drop. I kind of forgot, to be honest. I kind of talked over it. I don't know if you heard, but I was basically just saying some crap about how, like, it installs using npm, and I have a yarn.lock file, so ideally the ESLint package should be able to see that I have this yarn.lock and then not run npm and run yarn instead. I feel like that would be super cool. But what I'm gonna do, just to save this video a little bit, is I'm just gonna have a look at this styled components and then take a look at the package.json in here and then see what components I need for styled components. I mean, I'm assuming it's only gonna be styled components, but I may be wrong. Okay, so they have a Babel plugin and a styled components plugin and the dev dependencies. I'm just going to be adding this stuff in. We probably want to be using the latest version of styled components and this. So in that case, I'm trying to avoid as many yarn add commands as I can to stop the frame rates dropping. And then this is going to be using, looks like this, and then obviously has a custom express server. And then, okay, so it looks like we're just gonna have to bite the bullet and install these things with yarn add. Again, I apologize, it's just I want to get the latest version of these things. And yeah, I will try and sort out these internet issues. It's just, I'm currently at like 70 megabytes per second download and like 30 upload, I think, but yeah, that's clearly not enough. So let's do yarn add style components and wait for this to install. Yeah, I know, right? Annoyingly, the stream gets really laggy whenever I do any dependency installations. So annoying, but we're back. I hope everybody had a good Christmas. Yeah. Comment in the chat what their best present was, if any. They might have just been spending time with family, and if that's the type of present you're into, good on you. The stream's about to get laggy again, just to pre-warn you guys while I install these stuff. Just expect anytime you see yarn add and then basically anything, expect a little bit of lag for the next, like, hopefully no longer than like 20 seconds, but yeah, apologies. Yeah, so like when I do this sort of stuff, my laptop does sort of try to hover off the ground a little bit. I realized that I accidentally installed this as a normal dependency and not a dev dependency, so I'm just gonna move this below here and then run yarn again to kind of fix all of that caching. So hopefully this is the last time we're gonna get some lag. Oh, that was a lot quicker than I expected, I guess because it's already installed everything. We're back up to 30 frames per second, and things are looking good. We've installed all of our dependencies that we need, and did I make a file? Yeah, I made this index file. Okay, so we're just going to import React from React, and I'm going to do const index is going to return just a simple div for now, being like hello world, the classic message, and then I'm going to export default this index like so and save. Okay, so as I said earlier, next kind of reads this pages folder and automatically indexes and all of that sort of like page rendering for you, so you don't have to do any routing, anything like that. Super easy. I probably shouldn't have closed them. Let's open these back up. Let's get the server-side caching and the style components, and then let's run the server for the first time. So we can just run yarn dev, which will run this little script here, which is just a next command. And soon we're going to have to change this out to a node command, because we'll be using a custom server for the server-side rendering caching, which again is kind of just improves a lot of things in terms of page load speed for when you're navigating between pages, especially locally. It can get a bit slow sometimes, not so much in production after you've built it, but I don't know, caching is always nice to have. Sometimes you have to restart your server to load any server changes you do, but other than that, it's definitely worth doing. Okay, so that all compiled successfully, which is always good. And then let's go to localhost 3000 and check that we get that hello world message. And we do. So far so good. So obviously this is kind of the end result, and this uses a custom font. This uses, let's make a little check. Yep, Cerebri. Sans? Is that how you pronounce that? I think that's how you pronounce that. So we're going to be installing a custom font and all of that stuff. And we've already downloaded this font and we have the license for it because we use it on a few of our websites. So luckily for us. But yeah, this is probably quite a good thing to learn, because most designs use custom fonts unless you're using like a Google font or anything like that. But first, let's get this styled components working. So we're going to be extending the document and injecting the server-side rendered styles into the head, and also adding the Babel plugin style, which is required for server-side rendering. Okay, awesome. So it looks like we're going to have to create a underscore document file. Now these files are, again, sort of read by next.js, and this is what all of your documents will be wrapped in. And then there's also like an underscore app, I believe, which is kind of what your main app will sit in. And there's quite a lot of these sort of custom file names which next.js will sort of read and then just assume this is what you want to do with that, which 99.9% of the time will definitely be the case. So let's take a look what they've done in their document.js. Okay, so they import document and they sort of wrap the next stuff in the body and then the style tag in the head. Collect styles from the app. Okay, I mean, this looks good. This might not work. We're using a version of a styled components, which is, let's have a look. It's like 2 versions above theirs. So, I mean, if this still works, then great. But let's fix all this stuff. By the way, how do you guys Can I talk a bit about the product I'm making? Yeah, sure, of course I can. I did at the start, but I will go over again. Maybe I didn't cover it enough. Let me just import React from React. And the room might flash red here, but yeah. Okay, so this is gonna live on AO Design. AO.design is a domain that I own, and it's a project that me and Bobby Giandroso is going to work on. And basically what it is going to allow us to sell these sort of cool landing pages for startups. If you're a startup, the hardest thing to do, especially when you haven't got any developers yet, and you're super new and you don't really want to like put thousands and thousands into development, you just want like a simple landing page, like a simple holding page with an email input that just kind of tells people that you're working on shit. So basically we're going to offer this stuff, and we're going to build yeah, Bobby is amazing, and we're going to be building these landing pages and then selling them. But for this live stream, I'm going to be building the storefront and working with Stripe and a Node backend to kind of see how to build a custom store. Yeah, this is totally split up from the Q&A app which I was making, and they will be separate, although I'll be continuing both of them. I haven't worked out a schedule yet. It's probably going to be around this time each day, because it's like when I finish my sort of like full-time job, and it'll probably be like 2 or 3 days on each project. I just think it's cool to have 2 projects going, because one of them is very heavily back-end. The Q&A app will be heavily back-end because we'll be doing a lot of custom stuff with accounts and all of that stuff, and this is going to be very heavily Stripe. Not very much back-end, because we're not going to have any account system. We're just going to be working with email addresses. So for example, people will put in their email address and they'll buy a theme or a landing page, and then what we'll do is we'll process their card information. Once it's gone through, we'll then generate a unique link, which is going to be the only backend stuff. So we'll generate this unique link, and then it's going to expire in about 10 minutes or so. We'll give them some time to download it, and we'll send that link to their email address they put in. And then once they download the template or the landing page, whatever we start to sell, then they have it, and then they can come back, and once they put in their email address again, we can check if that email has already purchased what they're buying, and then we can kind of just skip that card process bit, not even ask for their card information, and just send the link straight away with a newly generated download link. So that's kind of how we're going to make it first. Later on, maybe we'll expand it out to an account system. That'd be pretty cool, so you can kind of see which ones you've already purchased and download them. But that's all for later stuff. We're going to keep it simple for now, and yeah, this is going to be a smooth and easy ride, let's hope. A few people in my last videos were like, you're not showing us how to make the stuff, you're just doing it, and like, you're totally right. I even hearted the comment because you're pointing out some facts. Like, I'm not teaching people how to make products, I'm just kind of making these products and then just letting you guys come along on the ride and ask any questions you have while I'm doing it. I'll keep my sort of educational videos and that stuff to my tutorials, where I can actually edit and go through and all of that stuff and make it actually like technically good. Yeah, I hope that was enough explanation for you. So yeah, pretty excited. It's a cool project. We're going to be making loads of these cool designs for products and hopefully get some sales. But let's get back to making this stuff. So get initial props. This is something that's ran when this is first mounted. It sort of is the same as component did mount, but this is ran on every render of the page, even if it's sort of re-rendered on the save method with with that sort of stuff. And it's not like component did mount will only render when you like refresh. I believe this is the difference. And don't hold me on that, but I'm 90% sure that's the difference. I'm proud if that was correct. Okay, so I'm just gonna add this sort of stuff. I don't like exporting default up here. I kind of normally just export default and then do my document. I think it reads a little better and it keeps this from being like super long. I'm just trying to get rid of all of these underlines because my room will flash. Yeah, thanks. I think this is cool. I think this is like, it gives us time to have a conversation about how I do things and why I do things. And like, I don't know everything, and clearly, as I'm gonna make a lot of errors, in tutorials and stuff, I kind of just edit them errors out and totally just then have this like perfect video and then voice over it, and then everything looks like I have amazing amazing coding abilities, but that's never the case. It's never the case. What's that? Have you considered incorporating post CSS in your projects? I haven't looked into it too much. At the moment, like, it's cool. I'm using styled components, and I love styled components. I've been using it for so long now, I feel like maybe there's some other cool shit that I need to try out. And yeah, I've just been holding back, if I'm honest. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's another live stream that we can do together, me checking that stuff out. Because also I'm hoping that if I do something wrong, one of you guys is going to be like, dude, you're doing this wrong, and then I can correct that. So this ESLint thing always happens. It basically is just like, it's expecting me to call this .jsx because we're using JSX in here, but I like to call it JS. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna define some rules, and we're just going to ignore, that's not what I copied. And then it gives us the name, which is handy. And we're gonna just, alright, ignore this one. And how we do that is we just set it to 0. These things are sort of meaning like the warning scale. You can have like 0, 1, or 2, and like 2 will error, 1 will just give you a warning, and 0 won't say anything at all. I believe that's kind of the scale it goes at. So we still have some errors, and this is just saying that we need, HTML has no language. I guess we need lang en. Is that a correct language? I feel like it is, right? I'm gonna look it up. Yeah. Right first time. Okay, so we also import an head script in here. These are quite cool. This kind of just adjusts the page title, which is nice because you can do this on any page. It doesn't have to be sort of the document or the index or like the start of the page. You can do this functionally, like this can be a variable, and we can set a timeout which changes every 2 seconds when you get notifications. So you can have like one of them flashing message title bars. That's pretty cool. I notice you tend to do browser prefixing manual. Would appreciate a stream of you looking into it, only if it's your mood and schedule. Yeah, man, I totally agree with you. I feel like it's something I should try out. I don't really do browser prefixing. That's kind of all done on like sort of like styled components and stuff does all of that for you. So like when you do like border radius, it will like add in all of the sort of like WebKit and then Moz and MS and all of that stuff when it's needed. I think the only things that I need to do sort of browser prefixing for is sort of like font smoothing, but I feel like I don't even need to do it for that, and I'm just overdoing it there, because styled components does a lot of stuff for you in that sense. I'm just going to call this AO design, or maybe just AO.design for now. Okay, so this will automatically wrap all of the documents, and then who knows if this is going to work. I feel like we need to do some other stuff, right? We need to have that Babel script, which allows us for yeah, you definitely should. Styled components is really cool. And it's a pretty new thing. I feel like it is anyway. Don't. Hopefully, I'm not too far behind in the times. Okay, so they have a .babelrc file, and this kind of just has some presets for the next/babel and the Babel and server-side rendering. Okay. Basic stuff, basic Babel stuff. New file .babelrc. And we'll paste this stuff in here. That's not what I wanted to do. Okie dokie. Let's see. So I'm assuming next we'll just read that babelrc file now because it's there. That's something that next.js does a lot. It kind of just like for example, when we get onto making a custom Express server, which we will soon for the server-side rendering caching, you're just going to make a server.js and it will just know that that's going to be your custom server because of the name of the file. And I feel like this is quite a nice way of doing it. It's nice, it's clean, keeps things clean. So let's restart our server and let's see if we get any errors. Hopefully we don't. But we may have to look into styled components a little bit more. As I said, we're using 2 versions of above this example, so it may have changed a lot. But seems to have all compiled well, and if we refresh, it shouldn't change. It should just be hello world. I can see that I've got the title now, which gives me confidence. Gives me confidence that this is working. I guess what we could do is we could look into styled component global styles. So let's have a look in styled components. Okay, so this is styled components. And if you might already be looking into it, you might not, but it's pretty cool. Let's have a look at global, create global style. This looks like what we want. Hey man, how you doing? I hope all is well. I hope you had a good Christmas. Let's see. Okay, so this is cool. You can pass a theme into it. I don't think we need that for now. Let's see. So we just do create global style, and then we have a global style, and then later on in your app, you just include the global style. Seems simple enough, right? So I'm gonna do this stuff in another file because I don't want it clogging up this document.js here with all of my global file styles. So I'm gonna create a new file called like global styles.js and just paste this stuff in here. Yes, I know. And then we want to export default, the global style. Cool. Now we're not going to be using this. Let's just leave this empty for now. Yeah, man, I agree. When I was starting out with all of this JavaScript frameworks and all of that, I started out in Angular. For about a year, I worked in Angular. Then I moved to Vue, and I was working in Vue 1, and I played around with Vue 2 for a bit. But then I picked up React, and I was like, God damn, this is the one. It's totally preference. I feel all 3 of these frameworks, and obviously many more, can be used in production, small scale, and it's just like whatever you feel comfortable in. For me, React is cool because I can make React Native apps and use the same components on web as I do on the app. Yeah, it's super cool, and kind of like every day I work with React, something new kind of like shocks me about it, and I'm like, that's a cool feature, which I didn't get with, I did get it quite a bit with Vue, but not so much Angular. So yeah, totally look into React because it's really cool, and I think you'll be super interested in it, especially if you like Vue. But yeah, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Just stick with what you know. That's the best advice, I think. Okay, so we just have an empty global style here. Then we're gonna import this in the document because it looks like we just kind of make a component almost. So let's import that. Import global styles from global styles. And then, yeah, we just have it as a component. They wrap it in a React fragment, but we don't need to do that because we have this body here. I feel like we can just put it at the top. Maybe. Sorry. Alright, maybe this will work, maybe this won't work. Let's kind of just cross our fingers and pray. Let's see if we get any errors first. I'm gonna restart the server just in case. Okay, yeah, this is fine. This is just a warning. We can deal with warnings. I like to restart the server just so I know that it's not like a cache issue sometimes, because it's happened to me before where it's cached and then I restarted the server and then the cache unloaded and then everything broke because it was a nightmare. Okay, so we've got no errors. Let's try and actually change some stuff. So let's kind of set the margin to 0 and the background to blue. Alright, so we should kind of get a blue screen, and then this should go right up to the top. And do we? We don't. We don't. So this seems to not be working. Let's see if we can change that. First of all, we don't need to have this this sort of head stuff here, like this title, because we can kind of have them on all of the separate pages. We can create like a global one, but it should be in the app.js and not in the document. So I'm not really sure why their example does that. So let's do this, and then let's kind of think about things for a second. What about if we include it in here, in the render page function, in the sheet.collect styles? Wait, what did he say? I have to admit your videos make great case for React. Are you a listener of syntax.fm with the West Bros? Another reason why I want to dive deeper into React. I'm not. Are they like a podcast for developers? Because, dude, I've been trying to find some great podcasts to listen to when I'm trying to get to sleep. So yeah, if that's one you'd recommend, I'll certainly give them a listen. Okay, so I'm gonna try and maybe wrap this stuff in a React.fragment like they did in the example on the styled components. So just do this. My thinking is that we might need to collect the styles, which are these global styles, and then sort of print them in the head up here. Do it that way around. So let's do that, and then let's have this global styles up here instead. That makes more sense, right? Am I right, or am I being silly? I feel like that makes more sense. So let's save that. Hey, okay, so now we've got the global styles loading in. So let's just, yeah, refreshing works. So server-side rendering, I'm assuming, is working. Okay, so we got that working. Next thing we need to do is get rid of this blue, for example, because that's a bit of an eye killer. Why didn't I get rid of it? I feel like that should have definitely got rid of the blue. Is it like caching it now? Like, do I have to close my server each time I want to make a? Because that would kind of be. There is a React podcast which is pretty good. They did a whole episode comparing different ways of doing CSS and JS, example style components, style JSX, etc. Oh, sweet. That's really cool. I'd be interested in hearing that for sure. I've used both of them, styled JSX and styled components. I normally use styled JSX in React Native, and then styled components over on web. There's no reason, just kind of like how I've done it and that sort of thing. So yeah, I might give that a listen. Right, I'm just hoping that it's because I added that in the render prop. See, it's not getting live reloaded. That's annoying. That's annoying me. Why wouldn't that happen? You guys seeing anything that I'm missing here? Let me know. I'm just gonna sort of read it through my head a little bit, because otherwise I feel like I'm gonna miss something really obvious. So we have get initial props and then const sheet, new style sheet, server style sheet. Maybe this is it. It shouldn't be though, because then we render the page and we pass in the props and we get the sheet that collects styles from this. I feel like we're not. Let's. Yeah, see, like it's kind of weird. Is it being just really slow? No, right? Because like I didn't. So strange, so strange. Okay, let's just think about this a little bit. Okay, so what about if the get initial props gets this? Let's move down a little bit, and then maybe we have like another const which is like render page, and this is just because yeah, we don't need it because it's right there, right? And then const page is equal to render page, which is a function, and then we do okay. So what about if we do it this way? Let me just check you guys on. It's telling me something that I'm missing here. Nope. Okay, so what about if we don't do... Yeah, we probably want to do that. I'm talking to myself, and you guys probably don't really know what's going on. Some logic is going on, I promise. Original render page. I'm gonna save this render page variable here, and then I'm gonna do render page is equal to a function which is then the original render page, and then I can pass in an enhanced app like this, and this is an option on the render page function for the get initial props in the next.js sort of documentation. And then this now collects this stuff. And I'm hoping that because of that, we can use live reloading to sort of sort this stuff out. So this has the at props, sheet, collect styles, and then this makes sense, this makes sense. We don't need this anymore because this is just wrapped in that. And then we can close this off. And then let's get rid of this stuff. And then let's just do const initial props equals document.get initial props, which is a function that returns a promise. So if we just await this and make this an async static, I feel like this, I'm making this more confusing now. Get initial props, and then we need to pass in the CTX to the, okay, so maybe we can just do CTX here instead. And then basically instead of doing object destructurizing, we can just do this stuff and just bottom, and then we can pass in the CTX here. And then we just need to return the initial props and any styles that we want, right? Am I right? I'm right. I feel like I'm right. This has got to be it. If this isn't it, then I'm about to be annoyed. Initial props, and then we want to have some style stuff here. Let's have initial props.styles. That collects the collect styles here. Yeah, right. I'm thinking out loud, and thing is, I know it's probably making no sense, and I'm kind of like, I'm judging myself. I'm like, oh, I need to make sure this is making sense for everyone, but it's not even making sense to me right now. And then maybe if we pass in a styles array, we can combine some. We can do like initial props dot, this is where we can do the initial props dot styles. That makes more sense, because then we can pass in the initial props here without having to worry about, yeah, this is sort of working. And then we can do the sheet dot, which I think is get styled element. Is it get styled element? What does this one do? Can we read this, please? Okay, it doesn't tell me much, but I'm going to assume that's the right one. Okay, and then that's wrapped in here. Right, and then because we're passing all of this in the app, I don't see why we need this render function at all. Why is it there? Okay. Then we can get rid of all of this stuff too. I feel like this is neatening things up a little bit. So maybe we didn't need to... yeah, sorry, I didn't really make sense. Basically, we were rendering the page out twice, and it was rendering the page on the server load, and then it wasn't. And then basically this get initial props loads every time we do a live reload and things like that. But it was using the page render that it loaded when the page was first originally loaded and not listening to the server reload. So I was trying to create this original page render and then pass an enhanced app so we don't have to do a render function, and then use this to kind of set the styles dynamically so it does the live reload and we don't have to restart the server each time. Was basically what I was trying to think about, through my head. I have no idea whether it's going to work or not. It looks like we have hello world. I'm just going to restart this server in case we have any cache issues. Because we shouldn't really have any of the head and SEO stuff in the document file anyway, because of the the structure that it's loaded in. We should have it, if anything, in the app and then in each individual file. So I can see that loads, and then cross our fingers, I guess, and hope that this background red, when I save it, okay, totally works. Totally works. Do you know how much of a relief that was, that my logic actually made sense? What are your thoughts on rainbow brackets for VS Code? Yes, I used to have it, and I don't have it. And what are my thoughts on it? The reason why I don't have it is because I feel like it messes with my syntax coloring. Maybe not. Maybe I'm going to install it right now. These are stuff that I have installed, by the way, if you guys are interested. This is a custom package that I made so that it makes my lights flash every time I get an ESLint error. So like this, my lights will flash in the background. So you can ignore that one. It's not public. Maybe I'll make it public, because if you have LifeX lights, you kind of just need your LifeX token and you can change all the colors and all of that stuff. It's quite a fun thing that I made. But what were we doing? We were going to have a look at rainbow brackets. This one. Do I want this? Is there a better one? Might be just called something else. Nope, this one looks like the one. I'm going to install it and sort of reload my VS Code and see. It might help you guys visualize what things are wrapped in, actually, thinking about it. So I feel like it's taking a while to load now. My color's in. Okie dokie, that seems to have been fine. Yeah, the stream seemed to have survived that that download. Okay, cool. So I can see these are yellow highlighted now. Do I have anything that's okay? Yeah, this feels quite nice. I quite like the colors, actually. So thanks for that suggestion. All right, we're back. We've got live reloading. We have a really slow computer, which is running on all it can at the moment. We're going to get rid of this background red now that we know that live reloading is working, which is great. And we're going to now work on installing custom fonts. I know you guys have been waiting for this. Let's have a look. Didn't mean to press that button. Let's have a look at how we can. So you guys probably know of the font face. Font face. I feel like it's. Am I being stupid? It's definitely called font face, right? Let me just check. What would I have done this for? Okay, so this is an example where I've used exactly the same font, and yeah, it is font face. So I don't really know why I didn't do that, why I didn't come up here. So yeah, so the font face function, normally you kind of define a font family name, and this can be whatever you want, and then you define the URL to your fonts. And then, if you remember, right at the start, when I was going over what next.js is, I said that it does static exporting. This is great because it means that we can host our fonts without having to have like a Babel font renderer to sort of read the fonts, because they're going to be in a public directory for us to view. So let's make the static folder. So it's just going to be called static, and then we're going to have a new folder in here called fonts. And then, yeah, that's gonna be good. And then I'm just going to open this up in my sort of Finder window. Where are we? AO design. Okay, so we've got this static folder and fonts folder, and then I already have the Cerebri Sans font here, and I'm just gonna drop you in here. Doom. Okay, so now this is publicly hosted on the static / fonts / Cerebri Sans. So we can just directly link it here. So if you see here, I did this sort of font face function, which allows you to pass a name, source, font weight, font style, and it kind of just automatically attaches the static source / fonts and then source, and then it means you can just do this, which is a lot nicer than doing like this, maybe like twice, or if you have like 3 fonts, like 3 times or 5 times, like this uses up a lot of room when we can just write out once. And this is the good thing about using styled components, is we can use JavaScript in styled components, which means we can just have functional CSS. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna just copy this function I've already made and I'm going to paste it in here. You can see that this project was from a little while ago because it's using a different inject global mechanism than the new styled components does. I haven't actually used this styled components version for, yeah, I must have done. Yeah, I probably have. I'm probably lying. Okay, so yeah, just the function, and as we're using exactly the same font, told you guys that that I used it before. That's how I have all of my. Ooh, okay. I may wanted to keep that open, but. So what this is doing is this is just running the function that we have up here, and it's just passing in the font name and then the font sort of location. So if we go into static fonts and then add on this stuff, you can see that we have these files here, and that should all load in correctly because it's statically hosted by next.js. And then we kind of just need to have that stuff here. What app are you using for font management? I can't live without the Mac app. Typeface. I don't use any app for font management. I just use the default Mac app for fonts. Yeah, I haven't really needed to. I don't really have that many fonts, I guess. Like there hasn't been a time when I've been like, oh, I need to manage my fonts. I don't really know. Give me an example of why you'd need a font management tool, and I'll be interested. So we can say that the font family is this Cerebri Sans, and we could kind of like have loads of fallback things like sans serif, and have like maybe Helvetica as a fallback and all of that stuff, but I'm not going to bother for now because, yeah, maybe I should make it fall back to the system font like this, but then we kind of don't need any of this. Maybe we'll keep Helvetica new. We'll keep Roboto because that's also quite a nice font, and then we'll get rid of them. So I feel like that's quite a nice font stack. Kind of like we'll use the font family that we imported, else we'll use the static system, but then if you're the Apple system, sorry, and then if you're on Windows, it will fall back to Roboto or Helvetica New, and then obviously if you don't have any of them, then we'll just use the default sans serif font. Okay, so now we can get rid of this because that's not needed, and let's hope to God that we have the new font loaded in. Okay, cool, so we have the font. Do style components have fallback for CSS variables? Sorry for spamming today. No worries, honestly, you guys asking me questions in the chat is keeping me entertained, so keep asking as many questions as you can. Do style components have a fallback for CSS variables? Sorry for not spamming. Sorry for spamming today. Do they have a fallback for CSS? I'm not really sure what you mean. I'm assuming you mean like what would you use instead of CSS variables? Like in Sass, you can set variables and all of this stuff. So like this would probably be a variable under like main font family somewhere. They do, and what you can do is you can pass a theme to your global styles, I believe. I was reading about it on the styled component stuff. Okay, so you can have a theme provider component, and then you can pass in a theme. And then you can access that theme by, I think, within the props. Maybe I'll go over this now. You know what? Let's go over this now. So we're going to pull in this theme provider from styled components, and we're going to have it on the pages and document. Yep, we're going to just wrap this. I wonder if we can just use it instead of the React fragment. Only one way to find out. So we have a server style sheet. So we're just going to pull in the theme provider that styled components provides, and we're just going to replace this with theme provider, and we're just gonna see, let me check that that's kind of what they, yeah, so they have a theme provider and then they've wrapped, I feel like I should probably listen to them and do it like that. I'm scared that I'm gonna get it wrong. So let's do this, and then let's move all of you like this, and then get rid of this because VS Code auto closed that for me, and save. Okay, so now we have a theme provider wrapped around it, and we can just pass in a theme. Now they've done like an inline theme here, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create a new file and just call it theme.js, and then I'm going to just have a module.exports, and then it's just going to export like an object like this, and then that's it. I'm gonna now do like just like a variable that you might want to have, like font family, and then set it to that Cerebri Sans. Is that how you spell it? Let me just check that's how you spell it. Cerebri Sans, looks like it. And then have that document pull in the theme. So import theme from theme. And now we should be able to pass the theme in here, like this. And that should pass in this theme, which of course is this file, which you can have anything you want here. So you could have like a colors object, which will have like brand, and then you could have like, I'm just making up colors now. I think that would be like a pinky red. Yeah, and you can have like colors in there. You can have different sort of like variables. You could even have functional variables, so you can pass in a brand color, and you could make it run a function which auto-generates like 2 lighter colors, 2 darker colors, and this base color. This is kind of the benefit of using JavaScript for styles. You can do pretty clever functionality with it. But for now, we'll keep it simple. We'll just pass this in. This is just an example. And we should be able to now, for example, in our global styles, we should now, let's see if they have any examples of, I think you get it from the props. So PostCSS has a plugin which additionally adds the static value as a fallback with browsers no support for variables via font size. Okay, so this would just, when it generates the CSS, it kind of just puts in all of these variables for you. So it just renders like pure CSS and then puts in the variables. It doesn't work with CSS variables. But it looks like you can just do props.theme.color. So let's try this. So as we're using backticks here to kind of wrap everything in, you can use this ES6 like $symbol and then open and close bracket to pass in a variable. and then we can use arrow functions and pass in the props, and then we can do props.theme, and then we should be able to do font family, and that should use this variable here and be exactly the same result, and looks like it is. And just to check, what we're going to do is we'll remove this later, but we're just going to set the default color to be that props.theme.colors.brand, and hopefully this will be like a ready pink. Yeah, there we go. So we can use themes like that. And I guess you could have multiple themes set up in a directory, and then depending on like local storage or some sort of variable, you could switch which theme. I know that Safari allow you to switch themes depending on if you've got it on dark mode or not on the OS X. So you could do something cool there. You could have like dark theme and light theme, and then have it switch dynamically depending on which mode you're in on Safari, which maybe we'll cover. That might be quite a cool thing to cover. But anyway, I'm totally getting distracted. We're gonna have a font smoothing. Yeah, this boy. No worries. I always add this stuff. This is what I was talking about, whether I don't know if I need the browser prefixes here, because obviously they're different sort of values for both the font smoothing options. This is like the only place I do use the browser prefixing, just to kind of like be explicit here. It's probably put in a tab. I use spaces and not tabs, so whenever I copy code, it normally puts in like a tab item, and then my ESLint will flash at me. Okay, so we have the font loaded in, we have the main styles, we have a theme here, we have the main index, we have a document which is wrapping everything in. Things are looking good. We basically got the main setup. And if you watched my Q&A live stream, this is basically where I started from. And then someone got annoyed because I started like from this point and not from like right at the beginning like I did in this video. But I mean, all I have is hello world, and I was just trying to try and speed that up because I mean we've been going for an hour and 23 minutes now, and yeah, I feel like that's a long time to be streaming when I could have done this for you. And then, but you know, I get it, people are interested in how it's set up originally, and yeah, I hope it's been interesting for you. Even though we haven't actually rendered a lot to the page, I hope we've learned some logic and some cool things that you can do. So now let's actually start making this look nice, like this design. By the way, I love this logo. Bobby did a great job on this. This is really cool. It's meant to say AO. This isn't a Y, I know, but I feel like the angle of this A and like the curve of this O kind of makes your eyes feel like it's a Y. I feel like it's quite interesting and quite cool. Let me know what you think of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use mainly SVGs. I like to use SVGs, or we could use like a custom font and then have it imported that way, but SVGs are a lot faster, and that's what we're going to do. So we're just going to export this as an SVG like this, and then we're going to export it to sites, and then AO, and then design, and then front, and then static. And we're going to create a new folder and maybe call it icons, and we're going to save this as logo, all lowercase. I don't have my computer in dark mode, so I feel like you can't just have Sketch in dark mode, can you? Maybe you can. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can. Maybe you can't. no. I feel like Sketch will just be in dark mode if I'm in dark mode. But yeah, I don't have dark mode enabled. I used to for a while, but now I don't. And it looks like AIO. Yeah, I originally said that too, but it grows on you. It's just a cool logo, man. It doesn't have to say AO. It could just be a triangle and a rectangle and a circle for all you know. Yeah, we could do loads of cool animations. We can kind of animate these sort of patterns in, which might be quite nice. I don't think I'm gonna go too hard. Like, some people would probably like me to like scale up this circle and then have this line like draw in, like with SVG. But yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably just going to make some things fade in, maybe slide in from the left and right on load, maybe things like that. But yeah, I'm just going to sort of like go with the flow. As I said, like this isn't like a tutorial or anything. I'm just sort of coding these things out as I want to code these things out, and why not just be live and talk to people while I do it, because it sure makes my nighttime even more fun. So yeah, I know it does look a bit like AEIO, but just think of it like a cool logo, because it is cool, and don't judge. Right, so it's 40 pixels from the top and 63 pixels from this pattern here, but I'm assuming we want to go to this hero section, which is exactly 100 pixels, which makes more sense, like 40 and 100, because these are background elements. So I might even put them outside of the hero component, maybe underneath them, just so that this is like the main thing that I click on. So yeah, I'm just gonna have maybe 40 pixels from the top and bottom, and then have like 60 pixels top on this. Something like this would be fresh. Okay, I'll show this comment. I don't know why it asked me to verify that comment, but I'll open it up. Let's have a look, see at this. It opened in my other window that I have open. So it's like the hardest thing in the world to pull these things across. Alright, okay, let's put this up here. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, so like how it pops out from the middle, you mean? Okay, so actually like, maybe as we scroll... Ah, this is cool. This is really cool. Yeah, maybe like tomorrow or whenever I sort of do the next live stream on this, we'll play around with this. This could be quite fun to play around with together and come up with some cool ideas. But back to the header, because yeah, I don't want to make this too long. I'll probably stop at 2 hour mark because I need a break, and I might come back, I might not. Depends. I mean, we've got quite a lot of people watching, more than I usually do, so that's always good. And yeah, let me know, guys, by the way, if there's anything I can do to make this any more interesting or benefit you guys better, because I'm gonna start getting into streaming a lot. I've got a lot of equipment coming. I've got things to set up with my DSLR now, so that I can use a better webcam than the one on the ultrafine HD LG screens. I've obviously got this like massive Blue Yeti mic set up here. So yeah, I'm planning on doing some things with the whiteboard and all of that stuff. So would appreciate it if you guys come up with some ideas or any suggestions that you might have that will make these streams better. But yeah, back to it. So I'm going to make a components folder. Components. And this is where all of my main components are going to live. That was pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to say that anyway. And I'm going to make a header component. Now, yeah, this header is almost not a header. It's kind of just a logo. But I feel like sometime in the future we're probably going to add like links and stuff to this, so I'm going to call it header for now. I'm going to call it index.js. This is going to be a really simple header. So I'm going to import React from React. And I'm also going to create a styles folder, styles file even. So this is kind of like where all the styles for this header is going to live. And for this, I'm going to import styled from styled components. Jesus, can't write. There we go. Okay, so how styled components work is you do like a const variable. So let's say the quite common naming convention is sort of like styled, and then element. So like header, styled header, because you're like styling the header. And what you do is you do styled, which is this variable that we're importing up here. And then this is going to be equal to the HTML tag. So you can have an anchor tag, you can have a div, you can have a section. Like it really kind of just, it doesn't matter. It has them all. Obviously, as if we're building a header, we're going to be using the header tag. And what this does is it builds out a styled component. And then what we can do is we can use the backticks. And the backticks allows us to pass in CSS to that styled component. So for example, we might have like margin top of that 40 pixels, and then, or maybe we'll just do margin top and bottom of 40 pixels, like so. Even though it's 100 pixels from the hero section, I feel like the hero should push away from the top anyway in its own component. And then what I normally do is I normally just do like export default down here, and then the styled header. And by the way, you can have multiple things here. So you could have like styled header, and then you can have like styled header links, and then this could be like a UL. And then instead of exporting just the default, you could export like multiple, like styled header and then styled header links, and then import them like that. But because I'm only doing it as a one thing for now, at least, I'm just gonna keep it how we have it, nice and simple, like this, and then obviously drop down a line so we don't get that. And then I'm going to import that file. So import styled header from styles. And by the way, if you wanted to do like the multiple way, then you could just do an object destructurizing and then just do like styled header, styled all in there. But we can just do styled header like this. And then we're going to const header, make our main header, which is obviously just going to be a function. We're not going to pass any props in. We're just going to return and then we can use this like a component. Like I said, it kind of just builds a component based off this element and passes in this CSS. So we can use this like a component, like this. And then anything that we want to go inside the header, we just put in here. And it's really cool because when you do like a styled.input, then you can have all of like the on focus and on change event handlers right on that styled component right here. So it just pulls in all of the default attributes as well. And then let's export default header. So this is red underlined because we haven't put anything in. It's just like you should be using self-closing tags if there's nothing in it. But guess what? We're going to put something in it right now. So we're going to have it equal to the static icons and then logo.svg, because we saved the logo into this static folder, into the icons folder, and as logo.svg. So we should have an alt tag for when this isn't loaded, and for this I'm just going to have like AO design, just in case that isn't loaded. We could add like a title for accessibility and SEO and that sort of stuff, but I'm not too worried about that at this point. By the way, I like to leave a space between sort of like dependency imports and like file imports, because it reads better. It looks a bit weird when there's only two things, but yeah, I think it's better. Okay, so that should import the logo, and obviously it's going to be left aligned right now, so maybe we should just go into here and make this a flexbox. Now we could just do text line center, and because we're doing an image, it would just move it to the center, but I feel like a flexbox is slightly more scalable, because then when we do add links, we have a lot more control over it without having to go in and change the text line and all of that stuff. And then for this, we can just do justify content center. We don't really need to play with align items because it's the only item in the header, so it's not going to have anything to align itself with. And then how we import this is we just go to the pages. We could have it in here. Say if it's imported on every page, we could have it there. I'm not sure if it's going to be imported on every page. It might just be a landing page, might have a separate header, or maybe like a different prop passed to the header on other pages. So I'm going to import it on the index page for now. So I'm just going to import header from components header. And then this will obviously read this index file and then just listen to this export default on this. Sorry. So then we can just pull this and put it in here, and maybe we'll still keep that hello world because that's always fun. So now we should see this header, which we have in Sketch, appear here. Did it not load for some reason? There we go. Okay, it was just a bit slow. But yeah, we have the header all built out. Let's read what these people have been saying. I appreciate the raw, unfiltered process, maybe a bit earlier. But that's just because of my time zone in Germany. Yeah, well, how do you think I feel? It's currently 1:34 a.m. for me. So, yeah, it's late. Basically, I work from like 9 a.m. to about lunchtime, and then I have like a few hours, like quite a few hour long breaks, so maybe I could do it in between 12 lunchtime 1 p.m. sort of time in the UK time, and then that might be better because I've got a few hours there that I could stream in, but I normally just use that as like relaxation time before starting work again at 6 p.m. and then I normally finish work at like midnight, sometimes a couple hours before depending on how much work I smash through that day. But yes, today's been the first day back at sort of like working full time, so I'm just trying out this routine, maybe playing with a few of the times to see how I can fit it in. Yeah. Matt O'Shea asks, what are you making? This is going to be like the third time I've explained it in this video, but I'll explain it anyway because why the hell not? So basically I'm making Aero Design, and it's going to be like a storefront where you can buy landing pages. It's going to be working with Stripe, React, a little bit of like Node.js, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit different to the Q&A. I'm still going to be live streaming building that, and that's totally like still going ahead for all of those who are interested. But I'm just going to have a couple projects on the go because it gets a little bit tiresome working on the same project. So I like to switch and mix it up, and then I find I'm more excited to work on the project after that. So yeah. Happily will watch the vids, I assume you meant. In Germany it's 2:36. Well, that shows commitment if you're staying up till 2:36 a.m. to watch my videos. Maybe you're not up for my specific videos, but just up for another reason. But I'm gonna say to myself that you're just here for me, because it makes me feel great. Okay, so next things that we should... Oh, by the way, Matt, I hope that explained what I was doing a bit more. If you need me to explain it further, just, say it in the chat. What should we do next? So I could play with this hero, get these patterns loaded in, get this form rendered, or I could, because right at the start I did say, and I kind of skipped over it because I forgot about it, I could go over the cached server-side rendering pages, which will make things a bit faster. When you're loading different pages and you're sort of navigating between them, it can just load from a cached storage instead of from like reloading it all over again. And for this, we're going to need to make a custom Express server, which is what our files are going to be rendered from. So that might be quite cool. Let's see, React server-side rendering is very costly and it takes a lot of the server's CPU power for that. One of the best solutions for this problem is to cache already rendered pages. That's what this example demonstrates. Okay, so that's another reason too. So not only will speed things up, but it will also get rid of the CPU usage which it uses to render your page, which I guess is a pretty cool thing which we could go over in this lesson. I'm so used to doing tutorials, I'm saying things like in this lesson. So yeah, we haven't got far, but we've done a lot. We've done almost 2 hours of streaming. In the last 20 minutes, should I go over server-side rendering caching? I feel like it's beneficial. What do you guys think? Let me know. I'm gonna chill while you let me know on these things, and I'm gonna have a drink. It is AO, man. It's not AIO. Stop it. It's AO. Everything is AO. AO is me. Do the server-side rendering caching, not just server-side rendering, because remember, server-side rendering is already built into next.js as one of its features, which, if by the way you don't know what server-side rendering offers, it offers a lot of SEO sort of benefits. So you can have metadata loaded on your page for when Google indexes your website. So it doesn't load your website and then go to the page and then load in the JavaScript version of your metadata. Like it kind of just crawls your website, and to do that, server-side rendering is the best one. Okay, yeah, I've got a girlfriend. I've got a girlfriend and a cat, so I know your situation. And trust me, like my cat, like it's normally around this time, around like 2 or 3 a.m. It just starts running around the house, going crazy. And I've got my office door shut, so like it just can't come in and bother me. But normally it would. So I know the feels. So, okay, so it looks like we're going to be going over server-side rendering caching. And for those of you who don't know what that does, next.js has server-side rendering built in. Gets the server rendered automatically, and then the scripts are inlined and the styles scoped. Also using getInitialProps fetches the data on the server for server-side rendering, and then on the client for when the component is remounted. You can either use a dynamic import with server-side rendering out of the box, blah, 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 blah. But the downside of using that is, if we read this, is that it can use a lot of the CPU power to render that page. So to get around that is we can cache this stuff, and then we can just like render the already cached or cache the already rendered pages. And then we can just use that cached version when we want to re-render it, so we don't have to re-render it again. I hope that makes sense. Have you played around with... Yeah, I've played around with Lambda functions before. The sort of like Amazon service one. I had like an upload script which, when you uploaded a file, it automatically like cropped it to a square and resized it and saved it in like multiple different... in multiple different images, so that we could have like a better upload. I've played with it, basically is what I'm saying. Why is it something that you're interested in going over? Because could probably make a couple videos around it if you want. Okay, so let's get going with this. So they have a custom server.js. Let's see if they've added... Okay, so they've just added 2 pages. Just kind of, I guess, to kind of tell the difference between it. Okay, so we don't need to do that. Let's just focus on this server page that they've got, this server.js. So right at the start, if you remember, if you were watching then, if you create a server.js file, next.js is automatically going to assume that this is going to be your custom Express server that you want, or just, you don't have to use Express, but just custom server that you want to use to render the pages. By default, it will have one already there for you, but it doesn't do caching, which is what we're going to do now. So we're going to just copy all of this stuff that this guy's done because he's put a lot of effort in, or girl, I shouldn't assume, but let's see. So we require Express, and by the way, we use require and not importing when we're doing Node stuff because ES6 and Babel and all of that stuff hasn't really become standard on Node yet. You can use a pre-compiler and then compile it down, but that's a whole nother step that that we're not going to do. Okay, so we're going to import Express, we're going to import next, which I believe just gives us some functions with rendering the pages out. Like, for example, if we want to have a page that's not cached, we can do that. And then we do const port. So this just reads the environment port, and then by default, I guess, we set it to 3000, which is good. And then we kind of set the dev variable to be the environment, node environment, and if it's not equal to production. So if it doesn't exist or it doesn't equal to production, so if it's like staging or local, basically if it exists and it equals to production, then it's going to not be in development mode, which is right. And then we create an app, which is going to be this next function here, and we're going to just pass in this if is development mode, I guess. And then handle is app.get request handler. Okay, so I guess we're going to use this to handle the request. Okay, so yeah, basically the people who make next.js make a lot of really cool things, like even this hyper terminal which I'm using. So yeah, they're pretty cool, and I use a lot of their stuff, and I've played around with their sort of like now server pushing and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, it's really cool. I've used a lot of their things, but I haven't used their version of the sort of like functionless or serverless functions like Amazon's Lambda functions. Okay, so this is the server-side rendering cache. I'm guessing it's using this package which we imported at the start, and this is where we cache our rendered HTML pages, and I guess we kind of set the maximum amount of caches and the age that we want it to cache for. So this is 60 minutes. Yeah, this is 60 minutes. So this is 1 second times 60 is 60 seconds, is 1 minute times 60 is 60 minutes. And then we do app.prepare. So it looks like this next function has a prepare function, which is a promise. Yep. So once this is prepared, we then define a server, which is going to be our custom Express server. And then we use the render and cache utility defined below to serve the pages. Okay. So first things first, I like to make sure that anything that we define or anything that we used is defined above where we use it. Where is this get cache key used? Just because it reads better for me. I know that JavaScript isn't necessarily sort of cascading. It doesn't read top down. Is that cascading? Maybe I just made that up because of style sheets, but I know you can use functions that are from all over the document, but I feel like the function should be defined above where you're using it. So this, you should check it out if you find the time. Really great implementation. Oh, sweet. Node version 11, the latest, has experimental support for the ES6 module, so you can import if you run on your server with a specific flag. Cool, man. That's good. It's good that they're kind of moving on to that sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, I won't use it until it's fully supported. So hopefully in version 12, you're right, it should be. Thanks, man. I hope you get some rest, and I hope your cat doesn't annoy you. Sleep well, dude. Right, so this get cache key kind of just uses the request to get the URL, and I guess the URL is kind of like a unique thing because no URLs are going to be the same. So we're going to be using that as the key. I'm not really sure why it's in. I guess maybe it's to make sure that it's a string, but I mean the URL is going to be a string anyway. So why can we not just do this? We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I guess maybe if you wanted to do like maybe like cache or something, like add some sort of prefix onto it, that would be handy, but I don't think it's needed. I'm not going to do it. And then this async function, so we must be using some awaits. Yep. Render and cache. So this is going to get the key, which is this function here, and we're going to do the SSR cache, which is this thing we defined has, so checks it has the key, and then we're going to set the cache header, and we're going to send, I guess, the HTML here. And then we're just going to return an empty, so that we get out of this function early and not have to do any of this stuff because we've already got the HTML and we're going to serve it. Okay, so if we don't have the HTML, then it's never going to go through here, so it's never going to get returned, so it's going to hit this try method. So then we're going to render the HTML, kind of just, so render to HTML is a built-in next function. So I'm going to remove some of these comments, by the way, because I'm explaining it and I realize the comments are kind of just doing exactly the same thing that I'm explaining. Okay, so then something's wrong, blah, blah, blah. We need to skip the cache. So basically, if the status code is not 200, we can assume something is wrong. So like a 422 or a 500 error or a 404, then we're going to not cache. We're just going to send the HTML directly because likely this is going to be like a unique thing, which maybe you've changed some code and it's errored. So yeah. And then if everything's good, if it does equal 200, then obviously we want to set this cache key, which we got up here, and we're going to set it to the rendered HTML. This makes a lot of sense so far. And then we're going to set the cache header, and we're going to send the HTML. And then if there is an error, we're going to do app.render error, which again is a built-in next.js function, which is going to render them default error pages. You can override them as well with like _error as well. I do still have the error light, yes. So if I save this file, my light will flash just for you, Matt. And then, okay, so now that this function's better defined for me, it's up the top before we're going to use it. Then we do the app.prepare, and once it's prepared, we're going to set the server, and then for each endpoint, by the looks of it, we're going to do this render and cache. Cool, so that basically this now, as we went through in the function above, we'll just basically check that the request that we're trying to look for has been cached, and if it has, it will render the cached version, and if it hasn't, then it's going to cache the page under the unique index for us, which is the URL of the page. So this is how you would do sort of like get like params if you wanted to do like, for example, if you wanted to do like a website, and then you had like blog and then like blah 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 blah, and this was like an ID that you wanted to get, instead of having to write out like ID equals da 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 and get like the param that way, we can do it a bit nicer. And we can do it here, and then you can see that we pass in the request params ID and we just pass it into the rendered cache as a prop, and then we can get that just straight into the props, which is a nice way of doing it. But for now, we're not going to be doing that. We might come back to this stuff later on and do that same thing. And then basically for every other page, we're just going to handle as normal. we're just going to handle as normal the request. So this won't check if it's been cached. Basically, only the stuff that we specifically define will be, again, the comment is saying the same thing, is saying, yeah, only the things we specifically define will be rendered and cached or loaded from cache. Everything else will be this sort of default handled next method. And then we're going to do server.listen and then the port, which we defined above, which is either going to default to 3000, but we'll listen to the environment settings. And then if there's an error, we're going to throw the error, which will get picked up by next. And then we might want to, yeah, and then guess console log ready on localhost with the port. Cool, cool, and then cool. And then let's save. Do we have any errors? We have an error. This is unexpected block statement, ESLint arrow style. Move the return. Okay, so basically if we're returning something and it's the only thing that we're doing in the arrow, we don't even have to wrap it in these curly braces. We can just go like this and like this. And then that should get rid of these lines. Still got some red underlines somewhere up here by the looks of it. Okay, just missed the semicolon. Okay, so we're good. This should render our pages and cache them for us. So let's make a new page. We're gonna just copy and paste the index that we made here. And we're just gonna say hello world 2. And save that. And then I'm gonna restart my server because obviously it needs to load in that sort of custom express server. Hopefully we don't get any errors. Looks like we're good. And then if we refresh this, cool. So everything seems to be working. Let's add a link. So let's maybe call this like, let's rename this to about.js, and then let's import a link from next/link, and then let's say link href is going to about, and then basically in here we should be using any element that has an onClick param. So you can use an anchor tag or you can use a button. I'm just going to use a button for now just to prove that you can use anything with an onClick. It doesn't actually have to be like an anchor tag in here, and this will use sort of like, it's sort of React routing, but it kind of does some prefetch stuff, all of that cool stuff. And we just say like go to about. This probably needs a button type, doesn't it? Yeah. Type is just going to be equal to button. Okay, and then we're just going to copy this same thing in the about. And then just as an example, go to home and change this to home. And then again, obviously import link from next link. Cool. Okay, so now that should have this. And if we go to about, you see it's kind of taking quite a long time to go to. Okay, it kind of did that, I just didn't notice. I'm not sure how quickly it did that. I'm assuming it was longer than, yeah, obviously it's not called home, it's just index. Okay, so now this should be quite fast, right? So that was like close to being instant. These pages are changing like super fast around, right? Yeah, and I think, so as Pete says, anything does work in that, so you can use a span, but Next.js recommends using anything with an onClick param. Like for example, span tags, you can use the onClick parameter and it works, but it's not recommended because one browser out there, maybe like Safari, who knows, might be explicit to only clickable elements allow the onClick param. So it's just like, it will work for most situations if you use like a span or like any tag that you want, but just to be explicit, and what you should be doing is doing an on-click method. And yeah, Next like explicitly says that in their documentation on the link stuff. So yeah, but up to you. You can sort of do it however you want. Obviously, there's no real rules to coding. It's just however works best for you. Okay, so we have the server-side render caching done. Yeah, exactly. You probably shouldn't be linking things with spans. Yeah, it's probably not great. So we've we just got over the 2 hour mark, and I think I'm gonna have to go because I'm getting a bit achy, getting a bit sore, been staring at the screen for 2 hours straight. So I'm gonna go up, walk about. I might come back, I might not. I should probably get some sleep. It's like 2 a.m. now. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the stream. Leave a like on the video, leave some comments below, do whatever you want. This project is also going to be a open source project. Gonna have the GitHub repository sorted out soon, maybe by the next stream, so you guys can check that out. And then in the next stream we'll be making this page, and we'll kind of do it all. And then the stream after that will focus mainly on the backend and Stripe stuff. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you get notified when I do another stream. And I'll see all you guys another day. See ya.